This is the best mastermind venue of the few places where we host our events because Darwin German has set up the tech here to be really nice and professional as a training center. They're nice enough to let us use the center. And so in a second here, we're going to have the CEO and founder of Darwin German, by one and the same by name, come up and introduce himself. They have over 1,000 active investors, over $1 billion in assets, and a long track record. So I'm sure Darwin could do the whole mastermind workshop up here himself, sharing all of his experience. And many of the 7 speakers we have up here today could talk for an hour, hour and a half. But we try to keep it relatively short and concise and keep things moving. But just want to thank Darwin German before he comes up, and let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you so much, and welcome to our space here. This is our training center for our management team and our investors. We have monthly meetings here to do training. So you're talking about winning deals and influencing. For us, the influence side is education. I've been doing this over 30 years. Luckily, I grew up in the industry. I was doing make-readies when I was 6. Re-roofed a building when I was 12, and my dad always said, work smarter or work harder. Grades went down, and I was digging ditches. So it was at least stay there and do good enough and learn. And thankfully, we had a client in 1990 said, hey, we've got some money to invest. Where should we invest? He said, my dad said Dallas-Fort Worth. So I moved out here to help represent him, and over 3 years, we bought 5,000 units for $120 million that were all less than 5 years old. Thank you to the RTC, and if anybody remembers that. But getting on influencing people, I think that we don't really sell. I don't feel like we sell anything. Even though we have 1,000 investors, we just present it. And it's, hey, if you want to be in, great. If not, that's fine too. But we educate them, especially right now, on what the market is doing. You've got a really big dip, and everybody, go back to 2021, 22. How many people were really wanting to get into deals? Everybody was, because the last 10 years, everybody's made money on real estate. Well, now that there's a dip, now everybody is scared. And we're saying, hey, wait a minute. Now you buy on the dip. You get a better deal now than you would before. For example, this deal here, right here, the Mark. January of 2022 is when they were offered $110 million for this asset. 355 units in Weatherford. Brand new construction. Developer, he turned down $110 million because they hold long term. But then the interest rates came in, all the other problems happened, and we negotiated this deal. And we had it under contract for 8 months because of different things that we had to go through, and ended up buying this for $70 million. Okay. Now, getting deals done now is extremely difficult. And so our debt was only about 50% leverage. We had private equity for another 25%, and then we raised 25%. We got down to closing time, and money's hard to raise. It's real hard to raise right now from private investors on the retail side. And quite honestly, we were about $4.7 million short of what we had. And I think 3 times I walked away from the deal losing $1 million in earnest money. I had $1 million non-refundable earnest money. And I walked away 3 times and just said, I can't do it. And they were wanting to get the deal done. And so they actually contributed. They said, here, we'll give you the $4.7 million to go ahead and close this. And then you can raise that capital later and buy us out. So that way we can still have, sell into that deal and close right now. So that made them happy, made us happy. We got a deal done. It was the only way to do it now is being very cooperative. Buyers and sellers have to be cooperative. And there's a huge disconnect between bid and ask right now. Because with where interest rates are you going to buy a 5 cap with a 7% interest rate? I mean, that's just a killer. I mean, you're betting on the come there. So you have to get somebody who's motivated to sell, somebody who will give you a deal. And so winning the deal is not even the hard part. Finding it and finding that diamond in the rough with a seller that's motivated to go ahead and do it is the hard part. And that's where you really got to be on the hunt. You got to be looking every day, talking to everybody. And there's a lot of deals out there. You're actually getting brokers calling you back now. Whereas before they weren't. They had 80 people chasing them, and so you had to court them. Now they're courting you. I had 3 calls this morning from brokers, just this morning, trying to pitch different deals, and none of them make sense. So you really got to get on board. And then because we have 1,000 partners, those are active partners. We got about 3,000 total that have invested, but 1,000 active investors. And the key to that is transparency. Absolutely be transparent. I don't know if any of them are on even watching right now, but what's funny is we have nobody knows this, by the way. This is the first time I'm saying it out loud. Out of all of our assets, we have one that's having a little trouble. Ironically enough, it's not interest rates, it's not interest rate caps, it's not insurance, it's not any of the normal problems. It was because a construction manager screwed up and, in my mind, put lipstick on a pig. And so we're going to have to go ahead and I'm going to have to put in an extra $1 million into that deal. And it's the only one that we have a problem for no other reason, no market reason, just a screw up. But we are transparent, tell the good, the bad, and the ugly, communicate with them. Because if I came to you as, everybody in here is a professional. You understand business people have problems. And if they have problems, you want to bring them to it. You stick your head in the sand. That's what so many sponsors and so many people that own properties right now, they're just sticking their head in the sand and not telling their partners. They're walking away from deals. They have problems and they're walking away, and that just shows their character. And so make sure you are investing with the right people. If you're raising money, who's raising money in here? Wow. Okay, good. Educate, inform, be transparent, and just because you can buy something doesn't mean you should. Okay, so be very, very wary of that. But again, one last thing. I've got something free out here. I wrote a book. I taught money to kids at church, and this kind of was divine inspiration there. So it's just a free gift. If you want it out there, we'll have it out on the counter if you want it. But other than that, I thank you. Welcome to Dallas for those of you out of town. Welcome to our office. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I've got my email address up here. And thank you for the time, Richard. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good job. Appreciate it. Thank you, Darwin. So we had an event called Capital Raising Titans earlier this year. We had 20 speakers talk for 10 minutes each. They'd all raised hundreds of millions or $1 billion plus. One of the number one things they said is that associating with a really highly credible partner skyrocketed their results. And so if you are in the multifamily space, you'd want to work with Darwin German or co-GP with someone like that. It's going to boost credibility. So if you think you have an amazing deal and you don't have 3,000 investor relationships, then maybe keep Darwin German in mind, because they are looking for great deals and they are cooperative and creative. Also, the very first thing Darwin said, and he hasn't seen our slides for today, after building a $1 billion platform, was that it's all about education. You're going to see that come up today 3 or 4 times throughout the day. So I'm glad this came up by chance. Also, he mentioned about buying when things are discounted. Howard Marks is a multi-billionaire founder of Oak Tree Capital. He's written a book called The Most Important Thing. And he says that when the market's in decline, then that is when you want to start buying. And when things are toxic and everyone thinks you're an idiot to buy anything right now, that's when you get the deal of a lifetime closed. And so ironically, the fact that it's harder to raise money means it's a smarter time to buy. The fact that it's scarier to buy means you're buying things at a better price. It should be more scary when everyone's throwing a party, super excited, low interest rates, record highs. That's when you should be more afraid.